Kevin Hunter here on the Business Forum Show, and my special guest in studio with me is Marianne Nunes, and she's from Title Professionals and Abstract Company. And you can find them on the web at titleprofessionals.com, and you can call their office at 320-251-2933. And we'll come back to that contact information here before we're done. So first of all, welcome to the show, Marianne.
Thanks, Kevin.
And talk about your background in the title profession. You've been doing this for a lot of years.
Yes, 36 years now, and it's been fun every day and a challenge. I've enjoyed it.
Well, so let's talk about what just happened here now 2 months ago. Well, it was the end of June, right, that you sold the company now.
Yes.
So talk about that and what led to the sale of the business.
Well, in early January, I started thinking about technology. We had just finished doing a lot of increase in technology, and then suddenly we were hit with more technology that was going to need to be changed. The Consumer Financial Protection Bureau, which is the overseer of our industries, the financial industries, has a new change in RESPA coming out on August of 2015, which entailed another big change in technology. So I decided we needed to find someone that had this technology in place and maybe merge companies or sell to gain that technology.
Sure.
And so I had let my underwriter know that I was interested in merging or selling, and suddenly we had like 8 suitors, which totally blew me out of the water, because coming off the roughest 10 years this industry's ever seen, I expected it'd be several years before we really found any suitors. So it was interesting. Kind of ruled out several early on because I thought we needed a bigger company than we were to have the technology that we needed. And there were 4 suitors. Any one of them would have been a good mix for us. But the one that stepped forward, honest as the day was long, had everything in place, came up to visit us from Kansas, and we hit it off and met some of his staff. They all are very aggressive and into what needs to be done. And suddenly we found ourselves with a purchase agreement and a sale by June 30th. And on the last week of the month, they came up, set up their technology, which is basically pie in the sky to me, and we hooked in, and we were there, and now we're running.
Excellent.
Yeah.
Excellent. So now you're the president of the company that you formerly owned.
Yes.
Yeah. Well, perfect. That's actually really interesting that happened that way, because it's not that uncommon that it does, and it makes sense based on, you've had this organization, you said now 36 years?
I've been in the title business for 36 years. I've been an owner of Title Professionals for 19 years.
For 19 years. It makes a lot of sense to maintain some continuity with the organization and what happens there. So having an organization come in and buy the company, it still makes sense to keep the key players involved in what's going on there. So that's a very cool thing that it worked out that way for you. And it also talks volumes about how you structured the organization and how you put things together, the fact that you had the number of suitors interested in your organization. Because there's many business owners out there that fail to consider the different value drivers that make their company worth something. And then when they go to sell it, they're wondering why nobody's out there to buy it and nobody has pockets full of cash to buy it with. And it has a lot to do with the structure of the organization. So it says volumes about what you did to position your organization for sale when you did. So well done. So let's talk a little bit about, from your experience in the title business, you've seen a lot of mistakes that people commonly make. And one of the things you talked about is that whether people are buyers or sellers, people rushing too fast through the process. Talk about that a little bit, and why is that happening?
Well, I think today everybody is so driven for time. I think that everybody's rushing through everything. But when you think about leaving $100,000 plus on the table and much more sometimes, really it behooves you to slow down enough to realize what you're doing and that somebody's looking out for your best interest. You expect that your realtor is. You expect that your title company and your banker are. But it doesn't take away the fact that you should look over your paperwork and protect yourselves too. Do what mom and dad said. Read the fine print. It's good advice.
Yeah, and don't you think that because people are dealing with professionals in those capacities, so when you're buying a house, you have assumably a professional realtor who knows what they're doing, a mortgage person, the title company, people, because they look at those professional trades and assume people are knowing what they're doing and are rushing through this whole process, you're suggesting, and it makes perfect sense to me because it's true in any profession, but you can't just assume that every one of these people do know everything.
No, because they all got in at some point, and maybe you got the person that got into the job last week and not the person that's been doing it for 20 years. There's definitely a difference in how something gets handled. In my shop, thankfully, we have a lot of seasoned people. Everybody except one has been there for over 10 years in our business. So if you are working with title professionals, you are working with experienced people that do bring expertise to the table for you. But I still would caution people that don't assume that. Check it out.
There's some pretty complex things that can impact a good house purchase or sale. One of the things that you were talking about here was mineral rights. Is this something that's always considered? And are there cases where somebody buys a house and later learns that somebody else has mineral rights, and all of a sudden there's a little problem with the property?
Yeah. Mineral rights are handled differently in different states, and title professionals works in different states. But in Minnesota, if you're working up on the Iron Range, you could very well run into mineral rights. Here in the St. Cloud area down our way, there aren't quite as many mineral rights, although you still have gravel pits, which are mineral rights. What that means is somebody else has a right to come in and mine those minerals. Well, if they're going to mine minerals under your house, you might have a little problem there.
Yeah, you might want to know about that. You might want to know about that. So would those be, when you guys handle that, you mentioned that you put this down as an exception to title, and you also talked a little bit about failure of title. What would be some examples of failure of title?
If someone had a judgment against them, for example, and that was a lien on the title, and the title company didn't discover that until after the fact when the judgment claimant decides he's going to foreclose his judgment. So suddenly you bought the house and now you get this notice from the court that says appear in court as owner of the house because this guy is foreclosing his judgment. If you don't have owner's title insurance, you do have a problem. You're going to have to get an attorney and defend yourself against that because he has a legitimate right.
Yeah.
Title insurance companies will generally do searches that trip those things out, but title insurance companies aren't infallible either. So
good advice. So a lot of things to be aware of when buying and selling a house. You can find Marianne Nunes, Title Professionals, an abstract company, on the web at titleprofessionals.com. Again, the website, titleprofessionals.com, and the number 320-251-2933. Kevin Hunter here on the Business Forum Show. Thanks for listening.